Let's talk about the receiving process. I know it's something very exciting that I'm sure you will love to hear about, but we're going to touch on just a couple things, and before you know it, this video will be done. So first and foremost, obviously, there are lots and lots of things that come into a distribution center. They come in all shapes and forms, big things, little things. They come in via all sorts of different modes of transportation, airplanes, trucks, containers, LTL shipments, truckload shipments. They keep on coming. Okay. And the ultimate goal of a distribution center is to ultimately move product out, but you can't move product out that you don't actually have. So it all has to come into the building. And that's where we get all these different modes of transportation. So all sorts of different varieties of things that go on in the very first stop, and that is in the receiving department. Essentially, a truck will back up to a distribution center and offload the contents of said truck. Okay, at that point, things need to be received. I had spoken previously about something known as an ASN, or Advanced Shipping Notification, which is something that is sent by the shipper, and it allows the company that is receiving the goods to be able to essentially prepare for what is coming. And when it actually arrives on the dock, it essentially will give them an electronic packing slip. And using this electronic packing slip, it allows the distribution center to be able to receive the product and prepare for ultimately getting it put into storage. Okay, so we looked at a couple things. One was a manual type of distribution type of setting, and that was at a t-shirt shop. Okay, and we've also looked at other types of distribution settings that would be much more, I guess, much larger. And in essence, I mean, the difference between the two is not that much. Essentially, it is the scale. The two different types of receiving that is going on are essentially the same. Some of the tools might be different, but all in all, it's the exact same process. Okay. One, however, is a more manual one, like the t-shirt shop. One is more technologically, it's more exciting technologically. Okay. Whereas the manual guy, he's using an Excel spreadsheet, maybe an Access database to be able to do a lot of things. The larger distribution center is oftentimes using a warehouse management system that has an RF capability to it. Okay, and we actually were able to several times be able to see an individual actually scanning cartons. Specifically, they were scanning what's known as an SSCC. Okay, it is basically a label that is on the box that allows these large distribution centers, WMS, to be able to understand what has been scanned. It allows them to know the unit that is inside the box, or as we might also refer to it as the SKU, or the stock keeping unit. Okay, but within this barcode, once it is scanned, and it's probably, I think it's about 18 digits long, I mean, embedded in that are all of the information that the receiver will need: the size, the color, the description, what unit is it, or what SKU is it, how many items are actually inside of it. Okay, there are all sorts of things that are embedded in that barcode, and with a simple scan by an RF gun, that product is able to be brought into the inventory of the receiving distribution center. Okay, there might be various quality checks that go on in receiving. You might have to crack open a box and actually look inside of it to see what might be there. Is it exactly what is on the label on the outside of the box? There's a lot of quality type of assurance that goes on this, or in this receiving process, but in essence, it is something that there is a small sample taken, and if that small sample looks good, everything comes into the building. Now, if there are problems with the quality, then a lot more work will get done, but the vast majority of shippers that companies deal with are quite good, and their quality is quite good. Okay. So they have scanned things into the building. A lot of times we started to mention things such as the utilization of something known as a container ID. I showed you a variety of different container IDs. They come in all sorts of different sizes and shapes, and it's all driven by the actual distribution center and whatever works for them. Do they want colored container IDs? Do they want 16-digit container IDs? Do they want 24-digit container IDs? Whatever the case, these container IDs allow the container or the cardboard box or the pallet, whatever you are going to be moving around, it allows it to be systematically tracked. Okay, so basically tying the information in that SSCC onto a container ID, and it allows individuals to scan the SSCC, scan the container, and then at that point, the WMS is then going to be able to track it, and you can move that container ID around the building in various manners. You can pick it up, put it on a forklift, move it around, put it in one location, move it to another location, put it in a slot where you might pick orders from, replenish that slot from another location. Whatever the case, you are able to track it using the container ID. I mean, all in all, receiving is a fairly straightforward process. And as long as the ASN is present and as long as the distribution center is actually expecting that, well, I'll tell you, it is a good process. It's an easy process. Okay, so that's pretty much it for receiving. So I will stop right there.